So we are both Aquariuses, and that is probably, in my opinion, the hardest sign to be. It was different from everybody else.
I would say so.
Tell me about when, yeah, did you feel the feeling that I felt like when I started going and diving into being an Aquarius, I started to feel like, wait a minute, like there's more of me? Like, did you go through that as well?
Absolutely. One thing about Aquarius is that we always feel different. Like since we're children, like we just feel different. And not just do we feel different, but everyone around us makes us feel like we're different. And
Okay, hell
for
yeah.
us, being different is a good thing because that means we stand out in our own right, in our own truth. But for others, being different makes us the black sheep, to a certain extent. So it's always been very interesting to navigate. We're very, we have like I like to say that we have like a soft power because we literally don't talk a lot. We just take action mostly, and we live in our authenticity. We live in
Yep.
our authenticity, and I feel like that can be very intimidating for other people, other
Yeah.
signs.
Yeah. We're gonna go ahead and cut to the chase. Everybody wants to know, is astrology is demonic? That's the question. Have you feel when you see social media users saying that
Yeah.
astrology is demonic?
So it gives me the perspective that they probably have a bit of a small mind. I'm not trying to, you know, call anyone out their name, but it makes me see that they probably have a small mind. Their perspective just isn't as grand as an Aquarius's would be. I feel like people who think that astrology is demonic, they're hiding behind something. They're afraid of it because at the end of the day, astrology is a fascinating tool that helps us navigate life.
Yeah, yeah. When I see it, I'm not gonna, I get a little irritated inside because I'm like, why do we always have to call something demonic? Like, why is it so hard to accept it?
I
Yeah.
think again that goes with the psychology behind the person, no matter the sign they are, like what were their traumas like growing up, are they using religion to cloak their traumas? Are they using spirituality to cloak their traumas? I think there's a grand psychology behind it that we should break down at some point.
It's kind of interesting that you said that because I found like people that are more open to psychology, those are the people that will be more open to astrology.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
you
I,
pay attention to that ology world at the end, it's like
yeah,
a small mind, okay? If you're a psychologist, you don't have no small brain.
exact. And for Aquariuses, like we think we're very expansive in our thinking. So there's no way that we could just have one way of thinking. We think in gray areas. And I feel like unfortunately we live in a society that's very like black and white still. Um, and it's hard to accept something like astrology if you're hiding behind yourself, if you haven't done the inner work to really like understand that astrology isn't demonic. I mean, if you think about it, it's a tool that was put on this earth by God himself. So how could that be demonic?
I feel like when people call astrology demonic, I agree. I think it's they don't want to expand their minds. And I think people get knowledge like intertwined with being demonic. God gave us a brain. God gave us common sense. If we see a rock and if we see like we know we can rub these two things together and put,
Right.
like,
Right, right.
like he gave us the gift of intelligence. Like even when I'm about to get really deep, even like back in the day, like the story with them looking up at the stars at the Big Dipper and using it to navigate.
Literally, it's in the Bible, the story of the three kings. And what did they use? Like you just said, the stars. So it's very interesting. Now, I do agree that there are certain things within the spiritual realm that could be demonic, but I don't believe that astrology is one of them. Now, should you live and die by astrology? I personally, even though I'm super into astrology, no, I don't think it should be that way either, because extremes are just not good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I do again feel that it is a very awesome tool to help us navigate.
Yeah.
See, astrology at the end of the day, hold on, I have a really good quote right here in my notes. So astrology is a symbolic language of timing. So if we use it,
Timing.
if we
Hmm.
use it as such, it's like a map of our destiny, so to speak. So if we use it as such, plus our faith, it can help us navigate our lives even better,
Wow.
and then putting faith into the equation, we let go and let God, as they say, and then we go from there. Because again, it's simply a tool, just like the Bible is a tool, just like,
Yeah. If you
you
believe it.
know,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, if you believe it. And I'm so glad that you mentioned, sometimes you could take things a little too far. That's when I think things get a little weird. But
Oh,
with anything,
yes.
like a scientist, when they become a mad scientist, it's like, okay, now you're like missing out on the plot. Like
Right.
there are things in that world that I feel like people take it too far. If I hate to be blunt, like witchcraft and things like that. Like,
Right. Right.
especially that stuff. I just want to be
When you
clear.
step in, I agree with you. Like when you step into those realms, it gets a little out there. That's
Yeah.
something that a lot of people misuse and malpractice, I would say. As somebody who used to practice certain things that could be considered witchcraft, like, and I completely got out of that because my belief system changed. Now, two things that stayed with me were my love for crystals and my love for astrology. Now, again, do I use crystals and astrology as a crutch? Absolutely not, because
Absolutely
it's not supposed to be a crutch for anyone or anything. It's simply supposed to be a tool, just like money is a tool, so on and
not.
so forth.
Okay. In your opinion, what is your favorite sign? Just want to,